Welcome to Treasured Insights. My name is Ruth Barasa. This channel is all about finding beautiful ways to go about life. And today, our conversation will be about your pain counts, and it will be based on my life story. I was born normally as a normal child, and I was in a very amazing family. And growing up was amazing. I received a lot of love from my parents, from my sisters, from everybody around me. But now when I started interacting with other people, I found myself being so quiet, so like I just always kept to myself, and it was not an issue at first. I just felt like I'm being myself. But later, as I continued to grow up, I found out that that it was something that was, people were wondering, like, why is she so quiet like this? Like in school, every time you said that quiet girl, everyone knew. We wouldn't even ask more details about it because they would just know it's me. So I went through primary, I was okay, and the teachers loved me because I used to perform so well in school, and things continued moving like that. For me, I felt like I'm just being myself. When I grew up, things continued to change, and I continued to feel the energy that was coming from people. Because if it's about being in school, I could just step into class every day. I sit alone, and I don't even talk to the person seated next to me, like the whole day, the whole term, the whole year, and it was just like that. So it was just too much for me, and people did not understand, because you've come to school, you have the ability to talk, but then you're not talking to us, you do not know who you are. We cannot, like, so I couldn't make friends, because friendships, they come from conversations. So without having those conversations, I just ended up being all alone. I tried to fit in, but every time, sometimes I feel like I have spoken to people, but then after some time, at the end of the day, you feel like they're saying, you're so quiet, you don't talk. So it got to a point that I felt like I can't try anymore. So I just remained like that. But it was good for me, because it was better for me at that time while I was in primary school, because I was a day scholar. I used to go home, and home, as I told you, I felt a lot of love at home. So it like neutralized those emotions and those feelings and the hurt that I was going through at that time. But then there are people who saw my inability to interact as an opportunity for them to take advantage. Someone could just borrow me something, then they don't return, and sometimes you could walk into a place and overhear people talking about, I could overhear people talking about me, and I felt so bad. At that time, I didn't know it was affecting me, but it's only later that I realized that this pain, it piled up for so many years since I was a child. Then now, things changed to worse when I joined high school. I went to a boarding school at that time. Now I joined, and then I was telling myself that because nobody knows me in this high school, I'm going to change. I'm going to start interacting with people and talking, and my life will not be, I will not go through pain like the way it has been in the past years. But then I joined school, and it was even worse, because now being in a boarding school, I used to just stay in class and do my stuff, and at this time I couldn't even go out for break, because people are going out. People are going out and they're interacting with other people. They are playing around. But for me, I didn't have a friend. I didn't have any kind of friend, so I could just prefer to sit in class and maybe sleep or something like that. At this time, my mind stopped even concentrating on studies. I could study things and I cannot even remember. So my performance went very low, and it was one of the things that kept also making me feel bad about myself, because my parents were proud of me, how I was performing. Now I felt like I was disappointing them at some point. I felt like if I cannot just sit in class and understand and pass exams, like I felt like I'm not good enough at that time. So in school, in high school, I remember going into the dormitory. Most of the times I could just get into my bed and I just start crying. I cry all night until I sleep off and wake up in the morning and nobody even notices that I'm not doing well. And then I could go to class. I see people greeting each other, but for me, I was just all alone. Nobody understood what is going on with me. And as for me, I felt inside, like I know everyone knows who they are on the inside. I knew I'm an amazing person, but then the world did not see me like that. They just saw a quiet girl who doesn't say anything. To some people, it felt like she's stupid, or I'm not mentally stable and things like that. And just getting the comments of people telling me how quiet I am, how I'm like my body posture, how I'm always frowning and everything. I didn't have anyone to share even just these normal life stories and everything. I tried so much to really interact and to talk, but it was just not working. So it got to a point that I'd gone home for holidays. I'd gone home for holidays. Then when I finished Form 2, now I was to join Form 3 the next year. But then I started having a persistent headache. The headache was not stopping. I took painkillers and everything, it wasn't stopping. And so I did not go to school immediately when other people reported. So when my parents they took me to hospital where they did a lot of tests and everything just came out negative. At the end, the hospital suggested that we go to a psychologist and just get to talk to her. So when I got there, that's when they uncovered all these things, and I told them how things have been, how I've been trying to interact, and it has always been failing and everything. So I started therapy then. I got a very good therapist. I spoke to her. She kept encouraging me and taught me how to deal with the way the way people see me, the way they talk about me and all that. So after that, I was transferred to another school. And this time around also I told myself, because nobody knows me, I'm going to change and to start talking to them and all that. But then when I got there, it was still the same story. And this school was tough for me because people were just on another social status. So I felt like I was not fitting in terms of the personality, and I also felt like I was not fitting in terms of their level in life. So it was so hard. I used to just, like, my life was just the way a school has so many people, like more than 1,000 people, but then for me inside I felt lonely and everything. So like during break times, the only place I could go was the toilet. So I could go to the toilet, then after that I walk slowly back to the class, because if I go to the field and to stay with other people wherever they are staying, I couldn't join their groups and sit together with them because I cannot talk. And I also felt the hatred coming from people, and I knew if these are the same people like taking advantage of me in class, borrowing my things and not returning, like giving me bad comments and all that, avoiding me. Sometimes we are seated like in a place, then people are greeting each other, then I didn't understand how I was not greeted. Someone just distracts themselves at some point, and I always felt just left out and everything. So the best times for me were times when I went to bed, because at least there was no expectation. When someone is sleeping at night, nobody expects you to be talking to them. Nobody expects you to be sitting confidently and everything. But things just continued to press me down so much. So it got to a point that I was not even concerned about my studies anymore. I was there to just finish school. I was there to just finish school and just make sure that I do not give up, because the harder work was, the most important thing was to stay alive and to not lose my mind. I used to just pile up everything. So I was just praying for the day when I'll just finish Form 4 and go back home. I didn't even care what I got. It was not my concern anymore. So I just did what I could, and I left out whatever I couldn't do. It was just too much for me. Then I cleared Form 4 and I went back home, and I felt like this will be a relief for me. But then after I went and joined campus. So now this was still another tough time for me. The day I reported to school, we went to the Cube, and I was introduced to new people who I was going to share the room with. And we were 4 girls in the room, and then those 3 ladies started speaking and talking to each other, telling stories, and they became very tight friends, and I was still left out. They used to involve me in the things at first, but it got to a point and they realized that you can't, you're not the kind of person that you want to be friends with. So I used to just feel all alone. At that time I could just go to class, and then the first time I remember going to class, I went late because I didn't know where the classes were in the first place. So when I arrived, I felt so scared, and I just sat there, and then I could hear people saying, she's how shy, I look shy and I look scared and all that. So also that thing, I never got to a place also in campus where I could speak to people. And in campus things are quite different. It's not like something. Most of the things you have to have connections and to have other people who are helping you. It's so hard to stay without a friend there. But then that was it, and I couldn't do anything about it. So I just kept hoping that one day things will be better. Then I cleared campus, and I enrolled for another course in a higher level. Then also this time I felt like maybe I can change and interact with people more and everything, but it still was so hard for me. I remember sometimes going to school. I remember one day I went to school, then it was so hard. I'm there, and they're telling things like get into groups. That was the worst thing that a teacher could ever say in a class, because they're saying get into groups, you're getting there, then I know other people, maybe they don't have the points to contribute and the content, but as long as they are laughing with each other, other people feel like they are contributing. So people could just look at me and think, Ruth, you're not contributing and everything. So those things will make me feel bad. And I used to feel so tensed all the time. Even if I'm in a matatu, whether I'm walking, everything, every time. I was never relaxed in my mind. My mind was always racing with thoughts, feeling how I'm not enough, how if I cannot sit and interact with people like a normal person, then what am I still doing here and everything like that. So I remember one day going back home, and then And then I got into my room and I just fell down on the floor and I was crying. I was telling God, just take me away. If I don't have what it takes to be alive in this world, then what am I doing here? So that was one of my worst days. I really cried and I was just telling God, or just let me sleep and never wake up. And I just wished so many negative things about me that could just take the pain away and everything. So it continued being like that, and things became heavier and heavier until it got to a point that I got into depression. I could like I could wait for my parents, they go to work, then I go back to bed. I just wanted to be in bed. I felt like it was somehow comforting, or to just catch sleep and forget about the problems for even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour, then I can wake up and go to school later. So I used to go there. I used to like to give myself the exact time that it takes to be on the road to reach school. Then before that I didn't have any interest in doing hobbies. I didn't have any interest in doing things that I loved to do. I didn't have any interest in doing house calls and everything. I was just so dull, and being in that state just made my family also, when you have a loved one in the house and maybe they are sick, you also feel like you're not happy, your joy is not complete. So my family, their joy was never complete in this moment. Especially my mom, because I used to stay at home, and then she was the one who came earlier from work and everything, so she could find me in bed most of the times, and you could just see her feeling so sad and everything. And it just kept on being like that, and it got to a point that I felt, let me just walk by the road, and I just go and throw myself in I used to see a certain river a few kilometers away from home. So I felt like, let me just go and throw myself there. Then this life, I just get away with all of these things, because I felt like I knew my family, they loved me, but I thought, for me, I felt like I was being a burden to them. Of course, they did not say that, and I know it's not true, but then, the thoughts sometimes they become so negative, and the lies in my head just became a reality for me. I believed them. I started to live them. I started to become those thoughts and everything. But then as I was going, I just began to think through my life. I began to think how my family would feel, because at this point, I felt like my family were the only people who really understood the journey I was walking in. And just being born in a Christian family, and I was actually born again at a very young age. And I was remembering, I feel like I know it was just God reminding me of verses in the Bible, verses that I have read for myself, sermons that I have heard. Then I just decided to just turn back and go back home. And before that, I had texted people on WhatsApp and told them bye. But I did not know that the messages went, because I didn't have like mobile data at that time. But then later on, it happened that the messages were still sent, even if I had deleted them before. So people could see messages and everything. So I just got back from home, and I said that I had gone to just take a walk. So I went back home, and I had my supper and went to bed. So later on, my mom and my dad, they saw a message, and my sister also. So they called me to the sitting room, and they asked me, what does this message mean? So I told them, I was tired. I wanted to take this way out. And then the next day, I was taken to hospital, and they took me to a psychologist. At that time, they now decided, because it was extreme, like it was severe depression, so they decided to include medication. So I took a lot of medication that gave me a different mood that was not really what I was feeling, but at least it helped. Even if the pain was still there and the struggle was still there, at least I couldn't feel that. So I took the medication for a while. This was 2016. I took the medication for a while. Then I was also doing the counseling sessions, which helped. And at some point, I was just given so many conditions. They're saying that I have schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia. At some point, they're saying I have social anxiety, but things didn't seem to just like, the diagnosis was not specific so that I know what really I'm dealing with. But then after that, there was this doctor who used to see me, to review me after every 3 months. So I went to the doctor. Then he told another psychologist that if this counseling, and there was a therapy they were doing called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which was not like trying to influence the way they mind things, and it was not like responding the way I think other patients it has responded to them. So this lady doctor, I remember her saying, if the therapy can't work, let the medicine do its work. So that was really so heavy on me, because I felt like they've done everything that they do to people like me, and now there's no way out. It's not working, so let the medicine do its work. So at that point I knew maybe this is it. Maybe it will just be the way it is right now. And I continued holding on. At some point I lost faith in God. Like, yes, I have known God for years. I've been brought up with parents who love God. I've been going to church. And just, I had a relationship with God. But then it got to a point I really started doubting. I was like, God, you are able to change all this. You are able to make me be able to interact, because it was not, people will think that it's so easy to just say, if the problem is not interacting or not speaking to people, so you just speak. But then it was that impossible thing. It just failed all the time, and I cannot even explain. It came from so deep within me that I could not. It was like I could not do anything about it. So I went on and doubting God at some point. At times, just self-harming. Like I could just take maybe. My dad is a doctor, so I could take some medicines from his cupboard. Then I just take a lot, like an overdose. I feel like I am dizzy and everything, but I thank God that all the time I always woke up again, and God kept preserving my life and everything. I just, when someone is in a state of depression, they feel like they don't only want to feel the pain in their heart. They want to, like, literally, some people even cut themselves. And for me, most of it was just overdosing myself. And I just thank God that He preserved my life and everything. And then it was like we're trying to deal with one issue, then another one crops up. But I thank God that He stood with me in everything that I did. And I also went for for someone to graduate, you have to go for an attachment or internship. So it was so hard for me. I worked in a hospital, and it was a very, very busy hospital, and I could stay at the reception just welcoming guests in, because I had specialized in communication. And so I could just stay at that desk every day. You find some patients just come with a certain attitude, seeing me just looking so reserved, and they could just come with an attitude and start just throwing words at me. My colleagues could just start talking negatively about me, which was so hurtful. I remember there was a time I went home and And the next morning my mom was waking me up to go to school, to go to work, and then I told her I'm not going. But then she really encouraged me. Then she told me, you just finish this course, then I will never disturb you. I'll never tell you to go for another course to any school or anything. Just finish this course because you started, and the only thing remaining is only the attachment. So I just went back, and it was like that. And the comments, you could see people stare, and if someone could stare at me and they feel like I am anxious, then how much more do I feel the anxiety? Like, how much more was I feeling the anxiety inside of myself? So it was even worse for me. It made me like feel I was so uncomfortable all of the time. I could just wait for the time of leaving for home, because that will be a relief, just to spend a few hours in a good state, just to return to work the next day. But I thank God that I finished and everything just went on like they did. But then all days were hard, but some were harder than others. But in all, I just thank God that I'm alive today, and He has kept and He has sustained me. Then now it got to a point that I was at a very low time. It was like I felt like, now God, me, I'm tired. If things I've waited on you for all these years, if things will never change, then let me just end this. I just wanted to take my life and just like get away from the pain and everything. And now I told God, if this year ends and nothing has changed, just allow me to just end this.